Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by mixed martial artist Adam Townsend. Adam, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Does anyone call you Adam? Because every time I've heard your name brought up, everyone calls you Primetime. Who calls you Adam?
Well, my wife, she calls me Primetime when she's mad at me. But as far as not hardly anybody ever, unless somebody just meets me and they really don't know who I am or something like that. But shortly after, a lot of people call me PT. So I get PT more than anything, honestly.
Okay. Because I've never heard anyone talk about you and not say Primetime. Like, never hear your name.
There's not very many Primetimes at all.
Right. Off the top of my head, the only guys that I can think are nicknamed Primetime are you and Uriah Hall.
I met Uriah Hall yesterday.
Who gave you that nickname?
We were just going through one of my coaches was going through the list, and I'm a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, and I was always wear like Dallas Cowboy hats and stuff like that, and I guess it just come from kind of the Deion Sanders era, and just him being my favorite football player, and I was a football player, and I guess it went somewhere from that. My third amateur fight, they started calling me Primetime. Me and my coach had talked about, what should be my nickname, and they come up with all kinds of goofy-ass nicknames like Adam Bomb, Adam the T-Rex Townsend, Adam, just shit like that. And then finally there was like, I was like, and it kind of came up like Primetime. I was like, yeah, I like that. But it was never like a thing, that was happening. I never like agreed to it or something like that. So they when I was walked out for my third amateur fight, when I got in the ring, they announced me as Adam Primetime Townsend. And, that was like I was like, oh, what the hell? So it's been stuck that way ever since. And like a lot of people, and it kills me when the announcer, and it's really weird and it really shouldn't make any difference, but I hate when people say Primetime Adam Townsend. I like it when it's Adam Primetime Townsend.
Yeah. I like it too. It has a better ring to it when it's in the middle.
Yeah, it's like Primetime Adam Townsend don't sound good, but then Adam Primetime Townsend sounds a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about, because I've seen it all the time, every time that you do a face-off or a square-off or whatever you want to call them, you're always flexing. When did that start, and why is that your thing?
I think I've done that every I don't know, I was never a fighter. Fighting was never a thing that I've done. I've probably been at the max 5 street fights in my entire life. So fighting was a thing that I was never super into. So like I hated this. I just didn't like the whole concept of just the putting your dukes up, so to speak. So when it comes time my first square off, I think the first time I ever done it, I just kind of stood there and didn't do anything. Well, then after that, I was like, well, shit, I flexed on some dudes and tried to intimidate them, because that was a big part of my game, was intimidation to some of the people I was fighting. So it just kind of, went from there. It wouldn't really, didn't really copy anybody or didn't really ever see, because you really don't see very many people doing that as far as face-off. You see people do it when they step on the scale, but, face-off, it was kind of a different thing. I just figured I would, start something new.
Okay. I like it a lot because it's very unique. And I see you, even when you're not facing off with somebody, you're still flexing. I've seen a bunch of event posters where you're doing that. I like it. It's a good...
But the thing is, too, like, and it throws people off. Like, there's actually a video on my Facebook of me squaring off with a guy I fought up in Atlantic City. And, I'm actually friends with the dude now. He's a cool dude. His name was Pat DeFranco. And when I done that to him, like, his whole mentality changed. Like, he was, like, moving his arms around like he didn't know what to do with his hands, like he was Ricky Bobby and doing an interview or something. Like, it really messed with his head or something. I don't know, but it's something that people don't do a lot.
Well, I definitely like it, and just keep doing it. I like it. I think it's good. Now, you said that you've only been in 5 street fights during the course of your life, so I'm curious, why and how did you get into fighting?
To make a super long story short, I was a big UFCer. I love the UFC. I bought every UFC from about late 60s to probably about 135. I still buy a few here and there. But, it's just a thing that me and my buddies, I would order every one of them. I'd have tons of people at my house watching them. We'd be partying and drinking and watching them. And then of course, we'd all, be watching the UFC, and then after, I had 2 sets of boxing gloves, and we'd all, box each other, and after we boxed each other, sometimes we'd wrestle with each other in my living room and just shit like that. And, I never trained or never had any jiu-jitsu or wrestling or kickboxing or anybody, no background in anything. And I just really watched a bunch of moves from the UFC. And then when I first, had my first fight, I'd only been training about 3 weeks before I took my first fight. And, it was just like, one of my buddies asked me to come over to the gym that I met that come over to my house to watch a fight. He's like, yeah, man, I'm a fighter. And his name was Ted. And the first time I met him, my buddy was like, yeah, I'm going to bring this guy over, and we're going to see, and I'm going to show you a guy that fights. I was like, hell yeah. So he brought this guy over named Ted, and he was a heavyweight fighter, and he just broke a dude's arm his last fight. So Brock Lesnar, this is like around UFC like 100, the 90s or whatever, when Brock Lesnar first come to the scene and just ripping people's heads off and shit like that. So I was like, oh, this big Brock Lesnar looking motherfucker's going to come over to my house. Hell yeah, it's pumped me to fight her because I've never met one. And then it's like this little like Humpty Dumpty looking like pudgy dude walks into the house, and I'm like, this is the dude you're talking about? He's like, yeah. He's like, he's legit. And he was legit as fuck. And, and we become friends, and he invited me to the gym, and I've been doing it ever since, man.
Interesting. This season, Ultimate Fighter 22 is a lightweight and welterweight season, and now you've fought in both weight classes. You've fought both at 155 and at 170, so I'm just curious, what weight class did you try out for the show?
55, yeah.
Okay.
I fought 45. I fought 45 is the majority of my fights. I think it's pretty split now. I think I had about 5 at 45, about 5 at, I'd say 5 at 45, probably 3 or 4 catch weights at 50, and the rest have been 55. I've only had 170, which was 70 was my last fight, and that was only because I hurt my knee, and my opponent was cool enough to, come up and meet me at 70, but he was a 70er anyway, so he didn't want to cut to 55 either. So, I got injured like 13 days out, missed like a week of training and couldn't do anything, and I just didn't think that I needed to lose that additional weight, and it'd be worse on the recovery for my knee, to make that weight.
As you move forward in your MMA career, what weight class do you see yourself staying in? Do you see yourself staying at 155? Do you see yourself moving down to 145? What weight class do you plan on staying at?
Yeah, I mean, if the UFC wanted me, or the RFA or UFC, either one, for a title fight for the RFA, I would do it. For just a fight in the RFA, I wouldn't do it. For a shot in the UFC at 45, if they needed a replacement or whatever, or however that would work, I would do it that way. But 70 is out of the question at this point in my career. I'm just too short for that weight class, and 45, it's just too hard on me because I walk around and upwards. I get pretty big. I get up to 190 pounds most of the time, so I have a hard cut to 45.
I know you can't say a whole lot about if you made it into the house or if you didn't make it into the house, but if you didn't make it, I'm going to be absolutely shocked because I think you're perfect for that show. You've got the personality. Obviously, we know you can fight. You're a finisher. You're exciting. If you don't make it into that house, I'm going to be very shocked. I'm already shocked because I've seen some Facebook posts and some tweets about some guys who have tried out for the show and they didn't make it in, and a lot of very talented guys, a lot of guys who I thought were locks to be in on that show. So if you don't make it into the house, I'm going to be just completely floored. I'm not going to know what to do with myself, and I'm going to have to reevaluate everything because if guys who are talented like you and guys who I've seen who have posted on Facebook don't make it in, I'm going to be having to think about what else is out there in the world. Like who's this undiscovered talent? How good are all these other guys if guys like you and some of the other guys that I've seen who have posted stuff didn't make it into the house? So if you don't make it in, I'm going to be very, very surprised. Now, overall, what was the experience like? I know you can't say what happened, but overall, was it a good experience?
Man, it was a crazy ass experience of nerves, anxiety, excitement. A lot of people had ups and downs. The whole aspect of getting here at 6:30, or we got here at 7:30 yesterday morning, and I didn't leave last night until 12:30. So it was probably, I think there was 300 lightweight, 200 welterweight. So yeah, it was a crazy experience, man. You had 90 seconds to grapple. You had as long as Joe Silva wanted to watch you hit mitts, and after that, you had to do, if you made it past the grappling, you went to the mitts. You made it past the mitts, you went to an interview, and then if you made it past that, there was another cut. And it was like I said, it was a roller coaster of events that that shocked the hell out of a lot of people. And there's a lot of people that thought they was going to make it that did. A lot of people that didn't that did, and they overlooked a lot of good guys, I'm sure.
Okay. Just a couple more questions about the tough tryout. And I know you can't go too deep into details, but just a couple more questions. Do you know who you went against in the grappling portion of the tryout? Is it a recognizable name? Is it someone that we know?
I think he was a WEC champ, possibly. And I didn't even know. And I guess they was testing me because they put me up against somebody that was super tough. His name is Karen, and then his last name was Daradvedyan.
You went against Karan Darabidian?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's a very good grappler. He's a judo black belt, very good grappler. Been in this sport a very long time, so yeah, they were definitely trying to test you.
That's what I heard, so I've done super well with him. So
yeah, that's impressive. He's a
it was more of, he didn't get, neither one of us got stubbed and forced. I almost had a head and arm choke, which I always get on people, and the rest of the time was just crazy scrambles. He was more of just trying to hold me down. He wasn't really going for a lot. He tried to get a guillotine on me. Popped out, got his back, and then went for the side choke from there. But it was a scramble. He was strong. He was heavy. I just didn't want to be the guy that played the hold you down game. I wanted to, go for a lot more submissions. So I was just trying to fight off my back as much as I could. So literally, there was some dudes in there. There was a couple of people that didn't even go to their back. Neither one of them hit their back. They were just wrestling from. They just basically hand fight for their knee, which was the dumbest thing that you could possibly done.
Now, what's the feeling like in the room? Is it very intense? Are people sizing each other up? Are people looking like they want to kill somebody? Is it very intense, or is it a lot more calm than I think it is?
It's both. Because there's only two people going at a time. So it's intense for those two, but the rest of the people are all anxious and nervous and wondering when it's going to be their turn to go, because it's completely random, and wondering, how they done, and wondering if they look good, and all that stuff. Because like me, we scrambled, and he was on top most of the time. I was going for stuff. He was, so it's kind of like when I was like, well, I felt like I done good. And then you're sitting there waiting for your name to get called to go to the next portion of the shit. You know what I'm saying? So you're sitting there like, okay, so after everybody grapples, they make a cut. So you're sitting there, you're waiting for your name to get called. And it sucked.
Who did you go with? Did you go with like other guys trying out from your gym?
Justin Wall made the trip with me and also tried out as well. He helped pass for me.
Is the fight with Yuri Villafort that's supposed to be taking place on May 8th, is that fight still on?
Yes, it's still on.
Okay. Now, what came first? The decision to try out for the Ultimate Fighter, or the offer to fight against Villafort?
They actually was like simultaneous, to be honest. So if you recall, I don't know, well, maybe, I don't know if you know, but the tryout was supposed to be last month.
Right.
And they changed the date. So it would work out perfectly. And they were supposed to start filming like at the end of May. So now everything's changed. But they offered me, I thought I was going to be fighting Anthony Angiquani, is who I, originally thought I was going to be fighting, so they talked about the RFA versus Legacy with me, and, all this shit. And I thought that maybe I would be getting a title shot and things like that. I just didn't know really what was going on. We just talked about a bunch of different things. So when, I thought Anthony Angiquani, who was killing David Burrow, the whole fight, and ended up getting armbarred in the last round. That's what I thought was going to happen. I was like, shit, I was like, I'm going to fight Anthony Angiquani, and that's a big thing in the UFC. Like, me and my wife is also a huge, UFC fan. So she always liked Anthony Angiquani when we watched WC together because he was the exciting fighter in the WC. He fought at 45. So I was first fighting Wade Johnson. Then they told me I was fighting David Burrow, which would just be Anthony Angiquani on Legacy. Then it comes back to I'm fighting a guy named Chris Feist. Then they said, okay, Chris Feist is out. Chris Feist was at the tryouts yesterday. Okay. Then they give me Chris Guttzenmacher. Chris Guttzenmacher was at the tryouts yesterday, and most of them turned down the fight with me. Then they give me Yuri Velfort. So Yuri Velfort is by far the toughest opponent they gave me. And he's a black belt. Which that shit don't mean nothing to me because my grappling's incredible. And I'm saying that very confidently now because after the people that I've rolled with recently, that's all been black belts. I've been training at Cobra Kai out here. Great jiu-jitsu school, doing very well with those guys. It's great. Probably the coolest bunch of the best cross training I've ever had by far is with Cobra Kai. They're amazing group out there. Everybody out there has been super ass cool with me. My grappling is good and my striking is good. I'm learning how to strike. My wrestling's good. My wrestling defense is good. I'm finally becoming, and that's what I've been telling people for a while. I'm so young in the sport. I've had so many fights and all this shit, but I'm still learning, and I'm learning the things that work for me. You can fight and you can do all these things, but and you can be taught so many things. But I'm finally learning, the style that makes me, and that's why I feel like I've been on such a good roll and doing so good here recently.
You brought up Anthony Njokuani. On May 8th, you're going to be fighting against Yuri Villafort, and in July, you have a fight scheduled against Waylon Lowe. So I'm just curious, are those the only kind of guys you're willing to fight at this stage of your career? Right now, you're right there. You're so close. You're on a nice win streak. You're so close. You're signed with RFA. You're so close to being in a big show. Are those the only guys that you're interested in fighting, those UFC vets, or are you still open to fighting all comers, regardless if they've been in a big show or just an up-and-coming guy trying to make it to a big show? Are you only willing to fight veterans, or are you still willing to take on all comers?
Yeah, I'm taking on all comers, man. And actually, the fight with Waylon Lowe has been scratched. For some reason, don't know the whole thing behind that.
Okay.
I don't know if he was too expensive to get, or from a local aspect of fighting in my hometown, or what really happened with that. But and it don't make sense. But that's what to get to UFC, they want you to beat guys they want you to be up and. To me, it don't make sense about fighting UFC vets. That don't make sense to me because a UFC vet is exactly what it is. It's a vet. It's somebody that the UFC don't want and didn't want. These people that get back into the UFC has been kicked out or lost a few fights and made the weights. Look at Rumble Johnson, for instance. A prime example of that right there. But in most cases, that's a very, very rare circumstance as a Rumble Johnson. You know what I'm saying? He was a 70-pounder. Now he's fighting for the title. Well, was fighting for the title at 205 until Jones fucked up. You've got things like that happen. But to me, it don't make sense why to fight UFC vets because that's what they are. I want to fight somebody I want to fight another primetime that's on a roll, that's up and comer, that's hungry and things like that. And the UFC's looking at, and I'm gonna take his place, and I'm gonna say, screw that guy. This is my time. That's what I want to do.
Right. I think it has more to do with the fans' perception and the politics of the sport than it does with what Joe Silva and Sean Shelby are looking for when they're evaluating talent. I think it has to do with people just want to see you fight against names that they know or fight against guys that they know from big shows. I think it has to do more with fans and the politics of the game than it does with actually knowing the sport and actually looking at what the guys who run the big promotions are looking for. I think it has to do more with the politics of MMA than anything else. Would you agree?
Yep. Here's my saying that I've come up with for a long time. You can fool the fans, but you can't fool the fighters. People that fight, they know. You have all these guys, and I talk a lot of shit to B.J. Ferguson and Isaiah Ferguson up there in Kentucky. And the only reason I want to talk shit is because they have a name. They have a big name, but they've not fought anybody. But people up there in Kentucky, they don't understand that they're fighting guys that have 1-5 records, that are 2-7, and fighting weight classes below them, and making the guys come up to their weight classes and shit like that. And you can fool the fans, but you can't fool the fighters because the fighters know. I can look and say, oh, this dude's fought nothing And it's not that I'm not faulting guys with some losing records or some bad records, but I've never been scheduled to fight those guys. I've never been scheduled to fight somebody that's 3-5, 2 months out. I've been scheduled to fight good opponents that's backed out on me, and then I had to get them guys last minute. And that's the difference. When you're scheduling guys that 2 months ahead of time that have upside down records, that's when you know you're a bum crusher. But there's just different things. But that's it. That's just one of the many things that's wrong with MMA. But boxing is way worse than that. We was at the local boxing shows, and the guys they bring in them for them guys to fight literally are working at KFC and put on a pair of boxing gloves and walk out there and take pro fights to get that a little bit of money. So boxing is way worse than MMA anyway.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this a big deal for you to be fighting on this RFA versus Legacy card, or is it just another event?
Man, this is the biggest opportunity I've ever had in my life. This is the biggest card ever on Access TV. RFA, Ryan Bevins, or Bevins, I think is how you say his last name, and Mark Garrett has been, for me to not fall for them before, and them to treat me the way they have, and shout me out all the time, and constantly keeping in touch with me, texting me, and things like that, man, it's incredible. And just to be on this big of a card, and to know that I'm signed with such a great company in the RFA, and this is my first fight, and they're hyping me up this much, and want me to be a part of the RFA versus Legacy, and expecting me to represent my side of the tournament thing that we're kind of having with Legacy. Man, it just means so much to me, and I couldn't be happier signing with them, and they've treated me great, and they pay well, and the exposure level I'm getting right now is just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Now, on May 8th, is there anything you're looking to prove, and is there anything you're looking to showcase to people who maybe for the first time will be exposed to you on Access TV?
I've said it several times here leading up this fight. I've fought twice in Atlantic City and lost 2 hard-fought decisions up there, and I'm just ready to prove that I'm not just some Tennessee fighter. I'm ready to show these dudes that I belong in the UFC, belong in the RFA, and beat guys that have been in there. And I'm looking for a big finish, or a dominant victory. Finishes have already come by. I've got 6 of them in a row. I want to say there's another one coming, and I feel definitely there is. But my cardio is good, and I can whoop him for 15 minutes, or I can beat him in 5 seconds. It don't matter to me. I'm out there to prove a point and to be dominant.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Can't wait for this fight. Can't wait for this card. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Adam, real quick before I let you go, and I really appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy man. Real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, man. Just everybody make sure. I appreciate you giving me the interview. First of all, buddy, it's been great. Pleasure talking to you. As well as I just want to thank my wife for supporting me, and letting me chase these wild dreams that I have, as well as my 2 sons. Back at home too right now, missing the hell out of them, and just ready to prove to everybody, like I said, that I'm more than just a local boy. And all my sponsors, you can go to my website, Adam Townsend MMA .com. Check that site out. My Twitter at Adam Townsend MMA. My Facebook page, Adam Townsend. Just like all that stuff, all that's updated. I've got an Instagram. It's Primetime TWO, and then the number 5 for my Instagram. So follow me on all those. Check me out on all those. I try to post as much as I can and keep everybody posted about what's going on. And I just appreciate everybody so much that supports me, and my friends and my family and my coaches.
Adam, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck May 8th at RFA versus Legacy 1 against Yuri Villefort.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, my friend.